Right, we're leaning on a gate by a road, looking across a field. But this long area of forestry on top of this ridge, which goes out of sight behind this hedge. That's where we're going next. See all the conifer trees, all sort of pointy. And at first glance from a distance you think that is all forestry, but there's a bit in there which is old coppice and possibly ancient. Let's go and have a look at that now. Right, and here we are at the entrance. See, we're on a other country lane, farm fields that way, downhill that way, downhill over there. Some fairly old trees along this edge here, but nothing terribly special. Have a quick look in. There's the end of a bank over there, and then the forestry. You can just see the first conifer trunk starts almost immediately. We've got hazel, peduncular oak, and you can see over here this is probably black pine. I'm not an expert on forestry species. It looks kind of like Scots pine, but the needle's longer, and the trunk is darker. So black pine, maybe Corsican pine. And we've got this rather nice ride along the spine of the site, and the plantations either side. This tends to be a feature of forestry. One thing you can say for forestry is that there's generally quite a lot of investment put into establishing it. Laying out the trees, sourcing the trees, planting the trees, a little bit of aftercare. At the same time putting in the infrastructure like this ride, so you can actually get your crop out when it reaches maturity. And some of these are approaching maturity now, look. Black stroke Corsican pine, and that's quite a nice tree. And that'll be worth the felling and the transportation. Let's walk through a little bit further and see what we can see. And these have all been thinned. You can see there's quite a nice gap between each of them. Some of them are showing signs of hardship, like this one's slightly brown. They've got ivy up them, but that's not a problem. On a rigorously maintained plantation, that ivy will be chopped off, but it's not making any difference to the trees and the growth of the trees at all. And it's a very good place for birds to nest and to forage. Understory is dominated by bracken, which is this stuff. There's a lot of forbs in there as well. It's cow parsley and dock. And red campion over there. So yeah, quite a nice woodland. Right, I'm going to turn you off and turn you back on again in a couple of minutes. Now on the top of a little rise, at the confluence of two tracks. And this little patch here may well be hard surfaced all the way across and used as a stacking area when they thin or when they harvest. You can see there's a pylon way leaf goes all the way through, electricity way leaf. The electricity way leaves are usually cut at intervals to stop trees fouling the wires. And they're often home to species which might not be in the woodland proper. And we walk through and we see quite a lot of broadleaves, such as this birch. There's an oak over there. And this is a hazel, which looks like to be an old tree. So this is possibly a remnant of what was here before. Whether it was a hedge line in a field, more over here. Whether this was a woodland that was felled out and then planted up, I don't know. You'd have to go and look for map evidence. And there's a sallow type of willow here. and then beyond there what looks to be a spruce, and I don't know enough to know which one. And here we have Surrey disease. Someone's walked the dog through here, put its shit in a bag and then hung it in a tree. I have no idea why people do that. And over here we can still see we're still in black pine, and we're going down the hill here to see what's further down. Lots of hazel here on the right. If we have a quick look in, see what we can see, if anything. Well, they're trundling along quite happily underneath the eaves of this area of spruce plantation. So we're going through there, rather than have you bobbing about all the while we walk. I'll turn you on again in a minute. See you then. Right, and here we are. Plantation conifers over there, plantation conifers here, and we've got a little sort of what looks like almost a bay and a clearing and some big old hazels. But this is what I wanted to show you. This is much clearer in the early part of the year, back in February or March, before all this undergrowth happens. But if we walk in here, where it looks like dog walkers have been going, we can see a remnant of hazel coppice. Look at the size of that stool. That must be getting on for 6 feet from there to there. These big ones over here. And we got bluebells, last remnant. Looks like a conifer there. Remnant of, it's failed. Oh dear, how sad, what a pity, never mind. And some more over here. At least lots of stumps. We've got a rather nice oak here. That's a waver if ever I saw one. And one there, and one there. And another failed conifer here. See where it's broken off and naturally barber-chaired itself. So it looks like someone's planted this up through the coppice and on top of the coppice, and the planting has failed for various reasons. Horrible gnarly oak here right on the edge, or on an edge. A lot of damage, but that could be a conservation tree, because there's going to be things living in all the deadwood in there. So you wouldn't necessarily fell it out just because it's a horrible shape. But you can see all the hazel through here. Oh, look, an Eeyore house. Kids have been up here, they built themselves a camp. This thing, I would suggest, because it's a hazel and it's huge. It's very rare to see hazels this big. So this is older than the conifers whose stumps remain. And we've got primrose at the bottom of it, and over here, and all through here. So it may well be, if you come back at the right time of year and everything's in flower, before we get full canopy, which we got here, you'll see a lot more wildflowers. So this is a strip of old coppice which runs back, and this could be restored. If you cut all these trees, you could turn this back quite easily and quite nicely into productive hazel coppice with oak standards. And that, I would submit, makes a very nice contrast to the forestry in this area as a whole. Whether it's economically worthwhile for the landowner, whoever that is, to do that, is a moot point. Kind of depends on how much you value the coppice. Because coppice does have value, but you need the right person to cut it. If you haven't got the right person, they basically make a poor job of it, and you don't realise the potential income. And this is an ancient oak stump that's been felled possibly as far back as World War II, when there was a big push for timber. This bit here doesn't look like remnant hazel coppice like this does. So this is remnant derelict, long derelict hazel coppice, which could be restored. And more oak stumps, several. Here on the left, more really nice, really big, really ancient hazel coppice stools. See the size of this one? This is one tree, inverted commas. This has got really, really big. So the question is, should you coppice that? You could, and it would come back really nicely. See all the coppice growth the sun shoots it's trying to put out. And the spacing on these stools, that's a birch, so we don't count that in amongst our spacing, is pretty good. Then if we look at this group here, is this 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 separate stools, or is this one clone? See it? You gotta wonder. Oh, and there's native honeysuckle on the ground there. Ancient woodland indicator. Right, this is a few tens of yards west in the same woodland where we've just been with that long derelict patch of hazel coppice with those great big stools. Here on the right you've got an area of very recent secondary woodland, and it's birch and sallow. This is sallow close to us. There's several different species make up a species aggregate we call sallow, species of willow with round leaves. But on our left, if we can make our way in, we're going to get prickled to death. Ugh. And very wet. We've got another more extensive patch of rather nice derelict hazel coppice. This is a bigger patch with very nice stool spacing. Can you see it? Bluebells again, and primrose again, all long past flowering now. This is early July, so 99% of the woodland flowers have stopped. The ones you will still find are on the edges of woodlands. And you've got this rather nice area, probably about a third to 3/4 of an acre, backing into the forestry. But this would make a viable cant, and it's really close to that very nice hard surface track. So your extraction route is brilliant, and this would restore, no problem whatsoever. And if you had a market for it, a lot of this recent birch would coppice as well, and you could take this little patch into the cant as a whole and make besom brooms for sale locally, because this would come back like mustard and cress, and you could cut it again at 3 or 4 years, no problem at all. So you could cut this on a 7-year rotation, and this patch here on say a 4-year rotation. So you could get a 2 for 1. Right, I can make my way out again and we'll have another look around.